Hello there. You're early.
Good morning. I got here early just in case. I thought perhaps there might be, some early morning data needs. Urgent, important, that sort of thing.
Usually those come at the end of the day, just when you're about to leave. But we do have an urgent need for tea, I think. Let's put the kettle on. We probably didn't cover that in your orientation. The kettle's here with the tea and coffee, and I brought us a treat. Fresh cream.
I see. Just there, underneath the fundamental principles.
Under the... Oh, yes, you're right. That's where the tea cabinet is.
Principle 1. Official statistics provide an indispensable element in the information system of a democratic society, serving the government, the economy, and the public with data about the economic, demographic, social, and environmental situation. Also available in Arabic, Chinese, French, Russian, and Spanish.
Ah, yes, they are.
And available on mobile. Oh no!
What is it?
There's just been an earthquake in the Western Province!
What's the magnitude?
6.8.
Oh my, that's bad. Not many people live in Western Province, but there are some towns and villages. If the housing isn't built to withstand an earthquake, the people there may need some humanitarian assistance.
Hello, I'm from the World Food Program. We need to take food and water to people affected by the earthquake in Western Province. Can you tell us which population centers have been most affected? We'll bring relief supplies to them.
Wow, you're fast!
Of course we're fast. We're a UN agency. What did you expect?
Thanks for stopping by. We're happy to help. A few years ago, the National Statistics Office worked with the Ministry of Emergency Situations. Together, we planned response scenarios in case of a disaster like this.
The National Statistical Office working with the Ministry of Emergency Situations. This is Principle 8 in action.
Principle 8?
Coordination among statistical agencies within countries is essential to achieve consistency and efficiency in the statistical system. Principle 8.
Ah, yes, of course.
Fred, we'll need to access data from the Disaster Risk Database for Western Province. Would you like to drive the screen?
I'm on it. Disaster Risk Database. Here it is.
Please pull up the maps showing seismic risk zones and residential building materials. Although this dataset is a few years old, the information it has about building materials is very relevant to a disaster response. Depending on how they're constructed, some types of housing are more vulnerable to damage or even collapse in an earthquake.
That's who we want to reach, people displaced from their homes by the earthquake.
Ah, good work. Thanks, Fred. Let's see what we have here. See here? These areas probably have the greatest need for WFP right now. Housing in these areas is vulnerable to damage from the earthquake.
Got it. Just what I need. Thanks. Bye.
1 minute, 47 seconds. Not bad for your first day, Fred. And my tea is still warm. Your turn to drive the screen.
Good morning.
Hello, welcome to the National Statistical Office's Data Concierge desk. I'm Fred. How may I help you?
Hello, Fred. It's very nice to meet you. I'm Nick.
Hi, Nick. What's up?
Employment. Employment is up, thank goodness. My team manages the economy of Esdigia. Agriculture, housing, banking, tax revenue, pension payments, things like that. But the reason I'm here today, besides the cream for my coffee, is road safety. The NGOs are after us to install more streetlights. And it's not just the lights. They want us to build dedicated paths for cycling and walking all over the country, and zebra crossings. All the bells and whistles to prevent crashes along the roads.
Is that so?
We plan to ask the legislator to allocate more funding to safe and active transport. But first, we need to understand how to get the best value for the taxpayers' money. Who's going to use these paths? What time of day will they use them? Where will they want to go? Can you help us?
Well, for starters, you could conduct a nationally representative household survey and find out who's walking or biking to get around. Then we could use drones to track the daily movements of a representative sample of people in each province. to see where people go each day and where more lighting and dedicated paths are needed.
Drones. Yes, please do go on.
Of course, transport mode might vary seasonally, when it's hot or cold or rainy or windy. So you'd want to collect data several times in a year, say twice a month. And people work at different times, so you'd need 24-hour observational data.
So many interesting ideas. And how much will all this lovely data cost me, Fred?
Cost you?
Yes, when I asked the legislator for budget to conduct a national household survey and drones to watch people traveling around all over the country twice a month, how much must the taxpayers expect to pay?
Frida, glad you're here. This is Nick.
Minister Nicomedes, always a pleasure to see you. I see you found the cream.
You're Minister Nicomedes?
Frida, someday you must tell me how every year the National Statistics Offices manages to snap up the best and the brightest from the civil service graduate scheme. Your colleague Fred here was just telling me about all the data the NSO can collect to help us demonstrate value for money with safe and active transport.
Oh, good. And?
Just curious, Fred, will the household survey data link to the drone surveillance data? I'm just wondering how I can sell it to the legislature.
Yes. Especially since the legislature is already expecting the Ministry of Planning and the National Statistics Office to work together on the census next year.
Oh yes, of course, the census. That old thing. Every 10 years, whether we like it or not, required in the Constitution. Earmarked in the budget. Researchers love it. The public loves it. Legislatures expect it. All the population covered in one data set. The census.
Oh, right. Of course. The census. I guess, yes. You could use that.
Of course, the census can't provide all the detailed data that a bespoke data collection effort can, but it is good for long-range planning. If there's a specific request, we can include questions on use of transport.
I see.
We can analyze the transport data with information on place of work.
Very clever.
And in the meantime, I believe we can make a good start on responding to your questions with data that we already have. For example, we regularly receive data on road crashes from the police.
The data is geocoded to the location of the crash. This would help you identify the spots where roads are most dangerous.
Those are fine ideas. The census. And reanalyze some existing data. Geocoding. Great idea, Fred. This young man's going to have your job someday, Frida.
And we'll all be better for it, Nick.
I've got to run now, but let's talk later about this safe and active transport thing. Good to meet you, Fred. Bye now.
Minister, just one question. How will you manage the budget deficit? What programs are you going to cut this year?
See you at the press conference this afternoon.
What was he here for? What he talk with you about?
You must be journalists. How may we help you?
I cover business for the Estigia Gazette.
And I report on technology for ABC Radio. Maybe you've heard my podcast, Tech Chat?
We're reporting a story on the gig economy and need some data on the labor force.
Are you on deadline?
We have time. We're profiling some different types of informal workers and the technologies they use.
We'd like to describe how the labor force has changed over the last, say, 10 years.
The Ministry of Education has some data about skills of recent graduates, and that's probably the best place for you to start. The last labour force surveys may also be helpful, but they still focus on formal employment, so it could be misleading for your story.
Principle 4. The statistical agencies are entitled to comment on erroneous interpretation and misuse of statistics.
The NSO is working to improve that and get more information about the informal economy. We plan to conduct another labour force survey next year. We hope to collect data on the informal sector then, but the funding to do that isn't secured yet.
Data on the informal sector will be helpful.
Definitely. Finally, some industries conduct their own research about their human resource needs and gaps, and that will give you more detail for those industries.
This is useful. Thanks. I would be interested to have a look at the labor force survey data too, even though it only covers the formal sector.
Here you can find the data from our last labor force survey. Here's the Ministry of Education's data portal website. For both data sets, you can select the time portal of interest and generate tables and graphs. Like this.
Tables and graphs aren't great on radio.
But they're terrific in our online and print editions. Thanks. Excuse me, may I get some help?
Yes, of course. What do you need?
Lunch. My family and I are visiting from out of town. Someone just gave me this list of restaurant reviews. It looks like Cafe Utapeli has good food and is close by and reasonably priced. How do we get there?
It says Cafe Utapeli is close by? May I see the reviews?
Sure, have a look.
This was published by the Estigia Association of Totally Collaborative Restaurants and Parking. I've never heard of that, organization. Some of these restaurants have been closed for years. This one was closed by the health department.
Closed by the health department.
Let me suggest a data source that'll be more relevant for your family's needs. It's independent, accurate, and up-to-date. Here it is. This review app displays restaurant locations on a map, and you can see reviews written by paying customers. The restaurant's hygiene ratings, the score on the door, is there too. The health department updates those ratings in real time as they make inspections.
Hey, that's handy.
I think you'll find plenty of suitable restaurants nearby. And please do submit your own review. The app is only really useful because of the information that users like you contribute.
Thanks. Come on, kids.
Hello, I'm an epidemiologist from the University of Estigia School of Public Health. I'm working with the Ministry of Health on the long-term effects of the COVID-19 epidemic.
Thank you for your service.
Oh, you're welcome. But I don't work with patients, I work with data about patients. For our collaboration with the Ministry of Health, we need to collect data from people who've had COVID. The data need to be population representative.
The census is population representative.
True, but if this is to monitor the progress of individuals who are recovering from COVID-19, you will probably want to go back to the same individuals over time.
How about a panel design? Cohort study.
Yes, that's exactly what we're thinking. Some people who've had COVID-19 experience stigma. It's important to maintain their confidentiality while collecting data.
We're fortunate now to have so many options for collecting data anonymously.
Principle 6. Individual data collected by statistical agencies for statistical compilation, whether they refer to natural or legal persons, are to be strictly confidential and used exclusively for statistical purposes.
Hey, that's good. I'm going to use that in my ethics review application. How would you recommend we collect the data?
Participants could respond to questions on a mobile phone. If literacy is a concern, interactive voice response, or IVR, works with even the most basic phones. Or a research participant can use a simple app on a smartphone to give their responses.
Also, secure data management has really evolved. Here, have a look at this brochure. It describes several of the options you have to choose from, and the pros, cons, and costs of each.
Thanks. This is really helpful.
I'm back.
The World Food Program. How are things going in Western Province with the earthquake response?
We reached the affected populations and distributed emergency supplies.
Already?
Now we are starting to plan for the recovery phase. We'll need to monitor progress. Can you help?
We'd be happy to help you with relevant data. What do you need to measure?
Food and nutrition security. Also, rebuilding infrastructure in communities affected by the earthquake.
How quickly do you expect those things to change during the recovery? How often should data be collected to monitor progress?
We hope the situation will improve fairly quickly. We have our own set of indicators, but we'd like to align with Estigia's official statistics.
We'd like that too. Let's find out if our colleague at the Ministry of Health can meet with you to have a look at their administrative data. They work quite closely with the National Statistics Office and the Ministry of Agriculture on food security.
Another example of Principle 8.